Genma, Izumo, Kotetsu, Raido. These are only a few of those guys from Naruto. Background characters from the Leaf Village that most Naruto fans don't even know their names, but we instantly recognize them. So in this video, I'm gonna be ranking all of those guys from Naruto, the background characters from the Leaf Village, from weakest to strongest. Starting off with number 8, the weakest out of all those guys from Naruto, Ebisu. He's a special Jonin and Konohamaru's sensei, and yeah, that's pretty much everything he does. His special Jonin speciality is teaching, so he's not very powerful in combat, seeing that Naruto in chapter 2 soloed him with a very sexy jutsu, and the only time he was in a fight for real, he fought against the Naraka path during the pain arc, and he was getting stomped. If it wasn't for Konohamaru to come in and save his own sensei, Ebisu would have died there. And Konohamaru was again in there, and he defeated the Naraka path, something Ebisu wasn't able to do. So yeah, he's definitely gonna be the weakest one. Number 7, we have Iwashi Tatami. And if I'm being honest, we know pretty much nothing about this guy. We never even see him fighting. But we do know his name, so I have to put him here. We see Iwashi for the first time in the written test of the Chunin exams, where he is being a proctor alongside several other of those guys from Naruto. He's also in that mission with Shizune, Genma, and Raido when they encounter the Sound 4, but he is not one of the ninjas that fights against the Sound 4. And most importantly, he's also in the Hokage Guard, and he's able to use a Flying Raijin in combination with Genma and Raido. And this is the only reason why I'm putting him above Ebisu, because at least he is in the Hokage Guard. They were chosen by Minato, so I have to assume this guy can at least fight a little bit better than Ebisu. And even though he's a Chunin, so a rank lower than Ebisu's special Jonin, because Ebisu's speciality is to teach, Iwashi being in the Hokage Guard and being able to use a Flying Raijin puts him a peg above Ebisu. Number 6, we have Izumo Kamizuki, one of the two of the inseparable duo. We don't see a whole lot from Izumo during the series. He uses a water-style jutsu in the fight against Hidan and Kaksu that is very sticky and serves to pin the enemy into place, even though it didn't really work against Kaksu there. He seems proficient with several types of large weapons, a blade that he uses to pierce Hidan in their surprise attack, but obviously Hidan is immortal, so he didn't die. And we see Izumo alongside Kotetsu blitzing Edo Tensei Kaksu in the war arc and pinning him in place with those blades and chains, and Kaksu has fought against Hashirama Senju according to himself, and Izumo and Kotetsu blitz him, so I have to put Izumo above Iwashi, who is pretty much featless. Number 5, we have Kotetsu Hagane, the other of the inseparable duo. And yeah, just like Izumo, he is also just a Chunin, not a special Jonin, and he's very much implied to be at the same level as Izumo. The only reason why I'm putting him a little bit above Izumo here is because he has that weird large sword that he used against Kaksu and Hidan in their first encounter there, and that seems to be the most powerful jutsu the two ever show. But other than that, he's pretty much at the same level of strength as Izumo, and also, I mean, he looks cooler than Izumo, so I guess this should count, because the cooler you look in a shonen anime, the stronger you're gonna be. This is kind of a rule. Probably an unintentional rule, but that's usually how it works. Of course, there are gonna be exceptions, but Kotetsu is just cooler. And he has that big, weird, scaly sword that looks like the Three Tails for no reason. Or is it for no reason? Maybe Kotetsu sealed a section of the Three Tails' chakra inside that sword, and that's why it took that shape. No, I'm just kidding. That would be kind of cool, though. For number 4, we're gonna have Hayate Gecko, the proctor of the preliminaries of the Chunin exams, and the guy that is always sick for no apparent reason. Hayate is a special Jonin, and the jump of combat prowess between number 5 and number 4 is going to be pretty large. Now, we don't see Hayate doing a lot of stuff because he gets killed rather quickly, but he seems to be a pretty capable spy when he is stalking Baki and Kabuto in the Leaf Village. Of course, he gets caught, and he has this brief encounter with Kabuto and Baki. Now, he seems to do pretty well against Kabuto in the beginning there, and Kabuto is said to be relative to Kakashi in Naruto Part 1. Obviously, it wasn't a full fight that Hayate had, but he wasn't a complete stomp, and then he uses his signature ability, the Crescent Moon Blade, where he creates several illusions of himself to fool the opponent. Oh, who is going to be the real one that's going to slash? He actually hits Baki and draws blood. Unfortunately, he doesn't pierce through Baki's flak jacket, and then he gets one-shotted by Baki's wind-style blade, which doesn't go very well for him. Like, oh man, you got one-shotted by Baki, this guy that has like 2 fights in the series. But hold on, Baki is very much implied to be at the same level as the Leaf Jonins that were senseis to the rookie teams, for example. During the invasion of the Leaf Village, he was fighting alongside Kabuto against Kakashi Guy and somebody else that's gonna show up on this list. So Hayate losing to Baki, who is a full-fledged Jonin and not a special Jonin, is not terrible for him. And you could also say that Baki was a bad opponent, because Hayate didn't have a counter for his win style. And even though Baki kinda stomps Hayate, he acknowledges his talent and, oh, the Leaf Village, you guys have some pretty good ninjas. And who knows, maybe Hayate was nerfed because he was so sick. I don't know. Number 3, Raido Namiyashi. Raido is the guy that has that weird scar on his face, and he is also a special Jonin. He is the second member of the Hokage Guard, and he is capable of using the Flying Raijin in conjunction with the other two, just like Iwashi. And we actually see a bit of him fighting against Kakuzu and Hidan when they arrive to save Team Asuma. Well, they kinda arrived too late because Asuma is already dying, but Raido manages to sneak up on Kakuzu and slash a blow at him. If Kakuzu didn't have the protective diamond skin, that could be a very dangerous attack because Raido actually hit Kakuzu's head. He's also one of the two ninjas that fought against the Sound 4, 2 versus 4, while they were out of chakra, and the Sound 4 had to use the second stage of their curse mark to win the fight. He's also said to be one of the best assassin specialists in the Leaf Village, and we can see that when he attacks Kakuzu there. Raido seems to be a very stealthy shinobi. Well, he has one anti-feat, which is not in the manga, it's only in the anime, but he gets kinda stomped during the Leaf invasion. And in the manga, we just kinda see a ninja from far away that's bleeding close to the Hokage chair, but in the anime, we see that that's Raido taking shurikens and kunais to him. He doesn't die there though, so I guess there's that. And that's probably one of the reasons why he's not gonna rank higher on this list, but number 3, it's not that bad. For number 2, we're gonna get Aoba Yamashiro. Aoba is really the guy on this list that has the most feats in terms of fighting, and also other things in general, to be honest, because he actually gets a decent amount of screen time as far as background characters like these go. We don't see him doing a lot in Naruto Part 1, but we get a few glimpses of him fighting during the Leaf Village invasion in the arena, and he seems to be doing alright, fighting alongside Kakashi Guy and other Jonins, so he's definitely someone that can fight alongside them and not get very hurt. He's also the guy that kinda tells Sasuke that Itachi has returned by mistake. When Sasuke goes and visits Kakashi after he got Tsukuyomi by Itachi, and Aoba arrives and says, "Oh my god, is it true that Itachi has returned?" When Sasuke was there. It's kind of funny. Irrelevant for the conversation, but just funny. But we actually do see a lot of stuff from Aoba in Naruto Shippuden. First of all, he's one of the guys that arrives to save Team Asuma, as well as Raido. He summons that flock of crows that is actually pretty effective against Kakuzu and Hidan. The crows are good distractions, and Raido actually uses those crows to sneak up on Kakuzu, so very good synergy between the two there. Also, in the anime, Aoba has a pretty long scene where he swaps blows with Kakuzu, just raw taijutsu, and he was very much relative to Kakuzu in that scene. Now, it's not in the manga, but still. We see later in that arc that Kakashi was getting pummeled by Kakuzu in taijutsu, and yeah, Kakuzu wasn't using the weird stretchy hands and the tendrils against Aoba there, but still, in that same fight, when Kakuzu tried to punch Shikamaru, he kind of explodes the entire building. If Shikamaru didn't dodge that, it would have been pretty bad. And Aoba is like casually swapping blows with him. Pretty crazy. Later in Naruto Shippuden, Aoba accompanies Naruto, Guy, and Yamato to the Turtle Island where Naruto is going to learn KCM with B. He has an encounter with Kisame there, and he uses a very interesting jutsu where he tosses kunais attached to a string. When the kunai pierces the target, he infuses the string with chakra, and that's going to paralyze the target. It would be a very effective jutsu against mid-tier to mid-high tier ninjas, I would say, if it lands. Kisame did counter the jutsu very easily by draining the chakra from the threads, but it's Kisame, right? He's a really strong dude, and obviously stronger than Aoba. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that. And Aoba is also capable of using the same jutsu as Inoichi to read the minds of your target. A very useful jutsu to extract intel, which he uses to almost find out Obito's real identity identity by reading Kisame's mind. And when Kabuto assaults Sturdo Island using Edo Tensei data, he acknowledges Aoba's presence there, thinking to himself, oh, even Aoba's there. Like, Aoba is scaring Kabuto. Well, maybe not scaring him, but at least making him wary. Now, is it because of Aoba's powers, or maybe because if Kabuto gets captured, Aoba could read his mind and completely ruin the war plans? Could be either or. Probably the second option, if we're being real, because Kabuto is extremely powerful, but Aoba here, he's also a special Jonin, but it feels like he should probably be a Jonin of the Leaf Village. He demonstrates very good qualities in every aspect of shinobi life, and that's pretty much what a Jonin is. Great taijutsu against Kakuzu, great overall ninjutsu, and very versatile. Aoba also seems to be pretty intelligent, so come on, somebody deserves a promotion here, because Tokubetsu Jonin, or Special Jonin if you didn't know, is actually a rank below Jonin, because you only have Jonin level abilities in one particular aspect of the shinobi arts, but Aoba seems to be very well rounded. And for number 1, the strongest out of them all, well, at least out of those guys from Naruto, is going to be Genma Shiranui, and I think you guys saw that coming probably. The proctor of the Chunin exams final and the 3rd member of the Hokage Guard, also capable of using the Flying Raijin in unison with the other 2. But that's obviously not all that Genma can do, because he has an off-screen fight against Baki for a very long time during the finals of the Chunin exams. And that's really a pretty interesting feat, because as I said before, Baki is a Jonin. He's implied to be around the same tier as characters like Asuma, Kakashi, Guy, and Kurenai. And Genma was just fighting the guy. Some people say, well, they didn't fight, they were just there in the arena, but really? They didn't fight? The 2 of them were facing each other for an hour or so while everything else was happening around them, but they were just there doing nothing? I just find that very unlikely. And at the end of the Konoha Crush arc, we can see that both Baki and Genma have battle signs around their body. They're not hurt, but you can see that Kishimoto purposely showed them being tired and worn because of the fight. So obviously Genma fought Baki off screen and they had a stalemate. And if you compare that to what Hayate did against Baki, obviously it's gonna be much better. Actually, this kinda puts Genma at Jonin level, at least when it comes to combat, and he is a special Jonin, which seems unfair. He definitely deserves a promotion after what he did in the Konoha Crush arc, and unfortunately, we don't even get to see a glimpse of him fighting against Baki. The only thing we really see is Genma stopping a few projectiles that Baki launches against Sasuke when Sasuke's going after Gaara and the others, because of Genma's orders, but that's it. We don't see them actually fighting against each other, which is unfortunate, but I understand why Kishimoto didn't show us that, because there were so many other things going on at the same time during the Konoha Crush arc. Another 1v1 fight there would probably tank the pacing or make the arc too bloated, but we could have seen like 1 or 2 panels of them clashing in one of those montages that we see maybe in the end of the arc, but that's definitely not Genma's biggest feat in the Naruto series, not by a long shot. Obviously, his most impressive feat is stopping a kunai with his toothpick, which happens in the Sasuke retrieval arc when he and Raido fight against the Sound 4, which, as I said before, they had to use a second seed of the curse mark while Raido and Genma were out of chakra. And yeah, they technically lose, but the deck was very much stacked against them, and Baki stops a kunai with his toothpick. Like, Genma is one of the coolest Naruto characters for no reason whatsoever. Wearing his backwards bandana headband, his hair is really cool, he always has that toothpick in his mouth, which he uses to stop kunais. It's very unfortunate that he does pretty much nothing at all in Naruto Shippuden. Even in the war arc, the only thing he really does is to take Mei to the Madara fight with the Flying Raijin alongside Raido and Iwashi. And then I guess him and other Jonins chase after Mu. But that was a half-powered Mu that wasn't able to use particle style. But still, you know, he was pressing Mu with other people, but Mu was a Kage and a very powerful one. Kishimoto couldn't give Genma too much screen time because he simply had too much aura. If he had a lot of screen time, he would outshine every single character in the Naruto series. But in all seriousness, Genma is just a cool character, and what he shows, the little he shows, is pretty impressive, especially when it comes to sheer combat and what he did against Baki and the Sound 4. Yes, unfortunately those 2 fights were off-screen, but they are impressive nonetheless, and he's definitely more powerful than Raido, who was fighting alongside him against the Sound 4, because, as I said before, Raido kinda gets mocked by the Sound 4 in the beginning of the Konoha Crush arc, and Genma is still mating Baki, who is much stronger than the Sound 4 members, and maybe even than the entire Sound 4 combined, depending on how you try to scale them here. So yeah, Genma number 1. Subscribe if you haven't, and ring notifications so you always know when the videos come out. Watch this other cool Naruto video right here, and make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it. It helps me out a lot. Thank you so much for watching.